This guitar is a Gibson L-5 model. It has an interior label, two interior labels actually. One over here under the treble side F hole, on the back inside, signed and dated by acoustical engineer Loyd Loar, December 21st, 1924. The other has its serial number, and that it is a Gibson Master Model style L5. Well, it's not a very fancy looking guitar by many people's standards, no fancy pearl, except just dots on the fingerboard, the Gibson and the flower pot on the peg head. It doesn't have super fancy abalone trim or fancy schmancy binding, triple bound on the top, on the back, fingerboard, peg head, binding on the pick guard. This was Gibson's top of the line model guitar at that time, costing $275 plus $25.50 extra for the case. So with case, $300.50. 50 cents is important. And that may not seem like a lot of money today, but in 1924, the dollar bought a lot more. The price of a new Model T Ford in 24 was $265. So this guitar was $10 more than the price of a new Model Ford automobile, Model T, and that didn't count the case. That was real money, inflation adjusted. That's at a time when lots of people didn't earn more than $1 a day, especially in the Southeast if they were in the farming business. If they were working at hard labor, $1 a day was considered a good wage back then. So this was a very deluxe instrument, and it sounds great. Loyd Loar went on payroll at Gibson in 1919, and he left at the end of 1924, late December, but this is signed December 1st, so it's one of the last with a Loar signature. But the F5 mandolin master model came out in mid-22, and the L5 records show only one having been shipped in 1923, and the rest with the Loar signature were in 24, but it was still only about 40 guitars of the Loar signed L5s ever made. So this is an extremely rare instrument. And the L5 historically, though, was a very important model because this was Gibson's first guitar featuring a 14 fret neck, 14 frets to the body, carved top with F holes rather than an oval hole. Previous Gibsons had oval hole on arch tops. Parallel tone bars, a bass bar and a treble bar. This is the first model that featured that. Also the elevated fingerboard. The fingerboard here is raised off the top so the entire top can vibrate. First model Gibson guitar that did that. Has an adjustable truss rod in the neck, but this was not the first model. That is a feature that came out on Gibsons in late 21. Has an adjustable height bridge, which is also a 1921 feature. But this combines a whole group of new design features that result in the L5 having great volume, but in many ways it was actually almost an afterthought in the master model line, which was primarily mandolin family instruments, consisting of the F-5 mandolin, the H-5 mandola, tuned like a viola, the K-5 mandocello, tuned like a bowed cello. So they're basically mandolin family instruments. Mandolin is tuned like a violin. And there was also a mando bass, but not in the Loar signature group, not a style 5. Gibson made a mando bass. It never took on really well because basically the mando bass truly didn't really compete well with a standard upright bass. So in general, the mandolin orchestras either played with a mando bass, or if they really cared about good tone, they got a regular upright bass. But this guitar is not only one that was expensive when new, it sounds wonderful to me. So this is my personal favorite guitar. And I don't mean simply that this model is my favorite. I've had other L-5 Loars in the course of my collecting career. In fact, the fourth guitar I ever owned was one that looked just like this, signed on the same day. It was a Loar L-5, and it cost me $400 in 1965. And I was a college student, and Mommy and Daddy were not going to buy it for me, and I didn't have a job. But they gave me money at the beginning of each month for apartment rent and food and books and other things. And I put a deposit down on the L-5, and it took me a few months to get it paid off, but I didn't eat that well. I had more canned beans and good meals, but I got the guitar, and I had that one till '82, when prime rate interest was 20%, and credit card interest was about 27%, and business was falling apart, and land on Lower Broadway could be bought for $3, and guitars that today would bring a heck of a lot of money were a tiny fraction of what they are now. At any rate, I missed that one, but I also remember what it sounded like. It didn't sound as good as this one. I've had about a dozen Loar signed L5s in my career, and when you consider they only made about 40 of them, that's pretty good. But while they all sounded real good, this particular one speaks to me in a way that no other guitar ever has. And in the course of my career, I've owned, I'm not sure how many 100,000 guitars it would be, but it's been a lot of guitars. And of all the guitars that have ever been through the store that I ever picked up, and of all the other guitars I've heard that anybody else owned that I might have coveted, not a one of them, to my ear or this one, just, I'm bonded with this in a way I've never been with any other guitar. And this is, for my personal use, the best guitar I've ever touched. It may not be for everybody else, but everybody who has played it has been pretty amazed by it. And I haven't had it very long. I've had this guitar for less than a month. And I guess it was my early birthday present to myself, because I'll be 75 August 21st of this year. And I got it a little before my birthday, which is a good thing for me. But this is one where a woman came in, lives in Crossville, Tennessee, 85 years old. And this is a guitar that her father bought before she was born, but he bought it new. And so I'm the third owner. He had it, and he died when his daughter was actually quite young. And then she's had it, but she never played guitar. She played piano, and the guitar just sat. So she brought it in wanting an appraisal, and I appraised it what was basically top dollar retail, but I also got it, she left it for repair because this high E string tuner had come loose and it wasn't functional. All the parts were in the case. This was a pretty simple job for us to put it back and get it functioning perfectly. It didn't really need any other work. And at any rate, I let her know that I could hardly live without this guitar. I had to have it. And she had planned on giving it to one of her children, but she has 5 kids, none of whom play guitar. And when she found out how much it was worth, it created a dilemma because there were 5 kids and 1 guitar. If given to one of those kids, the other 4 would feel left out. But for the amount of money it was worth, she could divide that 5 ways, and each kid could get $10,000. And I paid that. So this guitar, I've had instruments I paid more money for that we resold. I've never paid that much for one that I just kept for myself, and none of those that brought more money appealed to me more than this one. This is my absolute personal favorite guitar, that as long as I'm alive and mentally and physically able to play, this will be my guitar. And I've frequently been asked, if I could have only one guitar, what would it be? And up until now, my answer has always been, well, I have only one wife, and I'm faithful to my wife. I'm monogamous, and besides, if you're not, it comes up with all kinds of legal and financial, lots of problems. But with guitars, I've always wanted a harem, and I could afford to have more than one guitar, and they have different voices, they do different things, and they don't fight with each other. They get along well together, but this guitar is good enough that as far as my playing, I'm rapidly becoming monogamous. This is, for me, the most wonderful guitar, and I feel a great deal of passion toward this one. And it's interesting that guitars do instill a lot of passion in people. Guitars, banjos, mandolins, but also other instruments like violins, stringed instruments in general. I think people aren't quite as faithful to one piano. There's a certain feel and sound that pianos have, but you hit the key and that's it. Most people can get a pretty good tone even if they don't know what they're doing, if they just hit one note on a piano. But to get one note on a violin or even on a guitar, that takes some skill to get good tone. It's not just bang and it's there. And each guitar has its own personality. They feel almost alive. And a really great instrument has soul and personality. It's not simply a compliant, inanimate tool. It feels and responds as though it's alive, and it makes suggestions that you might not have otherwise thought of. And this guitar has changed some of what I play. It does things no other guitar has done for me. It makes suggestions. And for those who don't play, well, most people who listen to this will at least know how to drive a car. And they know that some cars really feel alive, and they make you feel like you just put on a Superman suit or something, and you can do things you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. But the problem with the automobile that does that is that almost all those suggestions it makes to you that you might not have thought of on your own are not street legal, and flashing blue lights and fines, and if you try something that is actually beyond your technical ability, it might cause an accident, and you might be injured or even die or take somebody else out with you. See, with the guitar you can try all these ideas, and some may sound better than others. It's a learning experience to get to know the guitar and know how to do it. And maybe it's like learning, if you are into horses, how to handle a high-spirited stallion versus a really gentle saddle mare that you could put your 4-year-old on to learn. But in the horse, it might injure or kill somebody if they're not skilled. Nobody's going to die if you try ideas on your guitar that don't work. But so far, darn near everything I try on this guitar, it's a whole lot better guitar than I am guitar player, but it's teaching me new things. It's my musical partner. It's not simply a compliant tool. It's a partner. Anyway, that's what I can say about it. I have a very strong passion to this instrument. And I have every intention of it staying with me as long as I'm alive and conscious and able to play. This will be my guitar.